Um, oh, yep, we're gonna record this too for people get just so everybody's aware. Um, I want to give a huge shout out to Masaru. For those of you that don't know, he is a sports med doctor with Sauk Prairie Health. He's a very accomplished racer in his youth, and obviously still skiing and coaching, and has kids that are skiing and understands the dynamics of skiing, much more than most of the doctors we get to go see. So he actually came to me last year about doing something like this, probably middle of the season, I would say. Um, and trying to do something for this just to give us, another edge up and give our kids and our athletes a little bit of an edge, maybe over, the next kids or get them getting into a situation where hopefully this will prevent an injury, whether it's in skiing or sports they do. So I just want to give a huge shout out. This is really his show. He's done all this work. When I sent out the email, I got a few thank yous back, and they're completely unwarranted to me. That really all the praise should go to Coach Masaru on this one. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to him, and we'll see if we can do some learning tonight.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. I just realized I didn't send the link to my partner who will be doing this. So give me a sec to forward this real quick. Sorry about that.
So Mike, if you could tell a joke, that'd be great.
Sorry, I'll send.
I really don't have any good ones that are clean.
Okay, we'll get going in a sec here. All right, very good. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. Really appreciate it. This is something I've been actually doing for, gosh, it's in residency, probably like 12 years. I did my first program for ACL prevention in soccer players over at Mount Horeb High School for the girls soccer team there, because I was the team physician there. And since then, we've implemented this at Wisconsin Heights, River Valley School. I believe Lodi also has a ACL prevention program, but all for basically volleyball, basketball, and soccer for girls sports. So it's something that I'm passionate about. It's something I've been studying for a long time, and I want to spread the word because it works. And it was a little different application with skiing, but in doing my reading, I found that there is science behind preventing ACL injuries in ski racers as well. So this is just a background information for people, just to understand what ACL injuries are and what they entail, and some information behind them. I want this to be interactive, and it's a little hard to be interactive because when I'm on presentation mode, I can only see my PowerPoint. So I'm logged on here separately, so I'll try to monitor the chat. But if I blow by some question that's in the chat, could somebody speak up and just let me know? And then, yeah, you can interrupt me anytime. So just shout out and say, hey, I have a question. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. All right. You guys can see that, right?
Yep.
Very good. All right. So the things we're going to cover here today is what is the ACL, or anterior cruciate ligament? Why do we care? We're going to talk about who's at risk, because there's some patterns that you'll see in how people have these injuries, and there's certain risk factors. And then what can we do about it? A lot of studies have been done in terms of preventing ACLs, but I wanted to introduce you guys to more of the details of how that works. And then we'll go over some programs that are out there, and there's only one that's specific for alpine ski racing, and they only looked at outcomes in alpine ski racers. But the thing is, a lot of the Cascade racers I know are multi-sport athletes. So if they play soccer, volleyball, basketball, this program will help them in other sports. So that's the thing with this program is it protects athletes all year round. It's not just skiing. And that's what I think is important about high school athletes is they're doing stuff all year round. So the anterior cruciate ligament is one of the 4 major ligaments in the knee. Can you guys see my mouse or no?
Yeah, we can.
You can? Awesome. So the anterior cruciate ligament is one of the central ligaments right here in the front. Now there's also other ligaments, the medial collateral ligament, the MCL, the lateral collateral ligament, which is on the outside. Lateral means outside. And then the posterior, which means back, is the posterior cruciate ligament. And the main job of the ACL is preventing this shin bone from sliding way out to the front. So you can see that if the shin bones goes too far, this will kind of go taut and stop that bone from sliding forward. So this is the ACL from the front view, and it makes a little cross like this. And when the tibia wants to move forward, the ACL kind of slides forward like this. And you can see it comes at a diagonal. So now when these tear, it's not just the shin bone going forward, but there's also a twisting motion that causes the ACL to tear. And you can see here that this is just an illustration of where the ACL can tear, but most of them occur right in the what we call the mid substance, or right through the middle. So when we talk about ACL injuries, there's mechanisms or types of injuries. One of them is that direct hit from the side. So that's the classic football player. Running back's running down the sideline, and then a linebacker comes and takes out the knees from the side. And it basically it's timing, right? So the foot has to be planted on the ground right at the moment the defender comes through from the side. So that's considered essentially in defining ACL injuries kind of bad luck. It's a contact injury. But there, as you know, there's a lot of ACL injuries where the athlete's all by themselves and they're either turning or coming down from a jumping stance. And those are the 2 other mechanisms. And they're basically the hyperextension, where the knee goes completely straight, and you'll see that in the landing. And then the other one is the quick stop and change direction. And that's kind of where ski racing ACL injuries fall, is that quick stop and change directions. So some orthopedic guys back in Vermont, actually the person who fixed my wife Erica's ACL did these studies where they looked at video and defined specifically in ski racing how ACLs are torn, and they clumped them up into 3 ways that people have this happen. The first one is called a slip catch. So basically the athlete loses balance and starts falling. And you can see that outside ski, they're on their inside ski, but it's when that outside ski comes down and makes contact with the ground. So their body's moving one way, but their ski's going the other. And when their ski edge catches, that pressure coming down causes that downhill ski to turn while the body's still going downhill. And when that happens, it happens so suddenly that the body doesn't have a chance to react, and the knee twists in and points, the toes twist in, and then the knees also twist in. And you almost can't tell that even happened here, but it happened in this yellow box here. This is very specifically to the speed events. So this is the landing weighted back. This is pretty nasty, just coming down on your tails. And it's just sheer force, right? You're going 60 miles per hour, you're coming down, you land, and your body just slams backwards, and then the shin bone gets pushed forward. So that's just a very forceful way that the ACL is torn. And then the last one is this dynamic snowplow. So they lose the downhill edge, and all their weight goes on the inside ski. And then the inside ski catches that edge and yanks it kind of in the opposite direction. So while the downhill ski goes out of the track, and the inside ski also wants to go that way. And you can see here, that's clearly not a normal position for the knee. So that's the dynamic snowplow. It's when the skis diverge, and then while you don't have enough strength, because your legs are so far out, you don't have the core strength to bring those knees back in, the tips catch, and then it twists that knee. So why do we care? Well, we care because it happens way too much. There's 250,000 ACL tears in a year. There's been even more in the last 20 years. And it's probably because, I hate to say this, but we're probably specializing and training harder and pushing ourselves harder. It costs $17,000 per reconstruction, and I can guarantee you that's a low amount. And it costs the healthcare system $1.5 million a year. So, and that's just for the repair. That doesn't include the consultation and follow-up and the PT and all that time that's spent recovering from an ACL injury. So in alpine ski racing, you guys are probably here because if I could take a poll.
Hey, Masaru.
Yeah.
I feel like the cost based on personal experience is much higher, just so everybody knows.
It probably is. Yeah, that seemed like a low cost to me. I know how much those ACL reconstructions cost, but you guys are probably here because you have been affected by an ACL injury personally or in your family. My wife's had an ACL injury. My mother's had an ACL injury. I can remember basically pretty much all the girls on my ski team, my junior ski team, had an ACL injury. It was unbelievable. So it's just super common in this sport. And my hope is that it doesn't have to be. There's an incidence, or the number of times people get injured. If you broke it down to 100 athletes per season, there's 24 to 37 injuries per 100 athletes per season. And this is in World Cup racers. Half of them are in competitions. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe that's something we should be targeting for safety. Why doesn't it happen in practice? Something to think about. And it varies by discipline. Obviously, that's physics, right? So if you look at the breakdown of ACL injuries, and this is looking at multiple studies. So there's 5 studies over on the left. So you're just looking at the different rates here. But basically, I kind of summarized it here for you. It goes from left to right in terms of frequency. So fortunately, our junior racers are not doing too much downhill and super G, but giant slalom and slalom are where our kids are racing and having injuries. And for ski racing, you can see, look, this was astounding. This is kind of new stuff I've been reviewing, but like, look how many are knee injuries. One thing that's missing from this, and I think it's because the studies are, in general, when they look at injuries in ski racing, they're older. They're from the 90s. And I mean, the surgeon that Erica had was like the you know, Dartmouth, UVM, Middlebury, like those D1 Alpine Ski College surgeon. He was the surgeon. So he was putting out a ton of studies like this, but you can see concussion is missing. And I bet that'd be one of the highest in my experience. But you can see here, knee injuries are by far the most common injury. And out of those, 38% are ACL injuries. So it's really stunning. For someone who's kind of called over to assess an athlete quite frequently, if they're holding their knee, there's a 40% chance it's an ACL injury if somebody's down and holding their knee. That's astounding. So I think one thing we forget about ACL injuries, I think one, it's common. So it feels like, oh yeah, another ACL injury will get fixed and we'll come back. Well, I think we do have to really think about, man, what does this mean for this athlete down the road? And there's some studies that show that half those people will have some form of painful or functionally impairing arthritis in 10 to 20 years after an ACL rupture. So that's really sobering. But you know, the other impacts are huge, right? The lost season, the lost scholarship, the lost state championships, it just has a tremendous impact. Not only that, ACL injuries, you don't bounce back from, even if you get it fixed. It takes out the most of the year just to recover. So you're going to miss 2 other sports if you're a 3-sport athlete. So 50%, what's that mean? So some people look at that and say, you know, we're going to develop arthritis after ACL. Well, I think some of us are half glass full and some of us are half glass empty, but one thing I want to share with you is that my wife, this is my wife's x-ray. She is, let's see, I don't want to give away her age, but she is about 20 years out from her ACL reconstruction. This was done just a couple of years ago. There isn't a single touch of arthritis starting at all. In fact, we also know that this ACL, this reconstruction is failed. It's totally gone. And she's doing great. She skis, she does bumps, she does powder. We have an ACL brace, but she doesn't wear it. It's really frustrating because she doesn't actually feel unstable at all and she doesn't have any knee pain. So I just wanted to reframe that. We have to realize it is really important to know that it causes problems down the road, but we also have to know, kind of look at this as 50% of those people will live completely normal, healthy lives in 10 to 20 years after an ACL rupture. There's also studies showing that if it's an isolated ACL tear, 87% will have no arthritis in 10 years. Okay. So ski racing, this is super duper interesting. So out of 477 French racers that they followed for injury in an injury registry, 100% returned to ski racing. Now they're World Cup racers, right? So they're really motivated athletes. So we can't really look at this as like the general population, but that's pretty impressive, 100%. There's another study of French racers, and I think they just do a really good job tracking their athletes, but the athletes who had an ACL injury and came back, they had a longer career than those who did not have an ACL injury. So there's some really good articles out there showing that maybe this is one of those really tough lessons that athletes can bounce back from, and they come back stronger than they would have if they didn't have the injury. That's just a hypothesis. There's probably a lot of other factors that play into it. You know, maybe those top racers are bigger risk takers, and that's why they're so successful. I don't know, but the point is, compared to other sports, the rate that athletes come back to ski racing is incredibly high compared to other sports that require cutting. So what are the risk factors? You know, when you hear, and this is the thing with being on the sideline, you hear so much stuff about what contributed to the ACL injury, things like turf fields or you know, the other things are like shoes, like what kind of cleats, and body size and things like that. Those do play a role, but those are teeny tiny things that all kind of contribute. This is a really complex thing, and little things can add up, I guess, is the best way to look at risk factors. But there is one risk factor that is really pronounced, and that's the male-female gender. So you can see here, when you look at women, and there's multiple hypotheses why. Is it I mean, they've done studies on hormones, and they've looked at body mechanics, center of gravity, and things like that. But all we know is the numbers are out there that are just really lopsided. So women have 4 to 6 times increased risk than men playing similar sports in general. When you go down to collegiate athletes, they're 5 times at risk. And this is what's astounding, is high school athletes who are female playing any sport compared to their male counterparts in the same sport are 9 times increased risk. And this pattern is also true in ski racing. So, you know, this is something to pay attention to. So you can imagine, when Brad sent me a video of an athlete getting injured for an ACL injury, that is my nightmare for my daughter who's ski racing. It's something I think about all the time when as soon as I enrolled her into ski racing. It's been front and center in my mind. So does prevention work? Yes, it does. And this is what's incredible about this whole thing, is that we have a bad injury, we know the impact of it, and what can we do about it? We actually have things that can actually improve outcomes. So I'll just go over some of these studies, but if you look at it, basketball, soccer, you can see there's huge reductions, 90% reduction in ACL injuries, and these are in women. So that's amazing. So it's not even close. It's just huge reductions in ACL injuries. So there's a lot of programs out there. So if you type ACL prevention programs, there's a lot. PEP is one that you'll hear about. That was the original study that showed reduction in injuries. Sport Metrics is another one that's out there. I'm just kind of showing you that there's a lot of different types of prevention programs out there. And you can see huge reduction. So untrained are the people who did not have the ACL. Here, I'll point here, untrained. So the higher the number, the more ACL injuries there were. And that's all in the untrained versus trained. Trained means they had an ACL prevention program, whether it was Sport Metric or PEP. And you can see that disparity or difference in female athletes having ACL injuries were brought pretty darn close to male controls, meaning they followed men in the same sport, in the same setting, same age, and they found that they brought that number down to similar numbers. So another program, and this is, I'm introducing this one because it is publicly available and it's also been proven to work. It's the FIFA 11 Plus program. This is for soccer players. It says football, but in most of the world, they call it football. This study where they clumped up 4 studies and looked at all the statistics together, they found that there was a 39% reduction in all injuries. So not only ACL injuries, but all injuries of the lower extremity. So that's pretty impressive. So something about these programs improves more than the things that cause ACL injuries. So here's a little comparison of the original ACL prevention program called PEP, and then FIFA 11 Plus, and you can see how often you have to do this. Okay, so that's kind of important here. This is not an intervention where you just do it once. This is something you do for warm up throughout the season with every practice. Okay, and you can see here, and you can kind of pick and choose too. This is the other thing. You can do it 3 times a week rather than every day. And even this study over here showed that they could reduce those ACL injuries over 75% to 90%. So you can see here, just for those who are more visual like I am. So what about alpine ski racers? So this was a really good study. It was published in 2020, so fairly recently. And quite frankly, this is the only study out there to show that a prevention program works for alpine ski racers. And luckily it was done in high school alpine ski racers. They did this for both men and women. It's a fairly large study. I mean, I guess if you think about it, if we took all of Wajara, we could probably do this study too. But it's pretty nice that they looked at such high numbers here. So the intervention group means that they did the ACL prevention program, 305, and the control group was 431. And they did 3 indoor exercises and 3 on-snow exercises. And I think, I'm guessing Brad would be in agreement to this, but I think we should do these on-snow prevention programs probably in the future. And if you look here, overall, bottom line, there was a 45% reduction in ACL injuries related to alpine ski racing. So again, you can see here the intervention group versus control group. These are the ACL injuries. The control group had a lot more, meaning they did not do the ACL prevention program, and you can see they had a lot more ACL tears here. And a lot fewer in the group that did the program. And you can see the reduction was maybe slightly bigger. I mean, the numbers aren't huge here, but 13 versus 4, that's noticeable, you know? And I just put this out there because scientists, if there are any scientists out there in healthcare, this is what we call a Kaplan-Meier survival curve. You'll see a lot of studies on heart attacks and strokes with this. But you can see here, the group that did not do the training, they over time, over the 21-month period where they observed, you can see the athletes drop off. That means they're not surviving because they have ACL injuries. And you can see that the group that did the training did not have so many drop off due to injury. Okay, so is that all that the ACL prevention does? No. So there's so many studies out there, but they looked at these programs and then they measured what these athletes can do. And these athletes can jump 10% higher. Their hamstring strength is 44% stronger, and they improve their sprint speed. So Brad is correct. This does give us an edge over other teams just purely from the performance standpoint. So it's pretty amazing. And hopefully, ultimately, they actually complete the season. And that's the best way, stay injury free. So the biggest thing about these prevention programs is that, yeah, you can download them and just do the programs in your backyard, but what's really important is doing them with correct technique. And you can see here, this is an example of good technique where the pelvis here is in alignment with the knee and ankle. It comes straight down. And then the movement that we're trying to eliminate with training is this tilting of the pelvis and then the inward movement of the knee. There's also a twisting motion that you can't see. The other things that we emphasize for this is soft landings. So we kind of repeat that over and over again. Try to land soft. And part of this is coaching, right? Every athlete learns differently. So you may have to show them how to land softly rather than just tell them. Instant recoil, meaning bouncing back up. And then you got to provide feedback. So again, another example of things that we watch. And because I've been doing this so long, when I see kids playing around and they're jumping off rocks and stuff, I can't help but say, oh my gosh, that person, we got to get them training. Or, oh, that kid is naturally going to be pretty good. So FIFA 11, nice manual. They've done a really nice job. FIFA is the organizing body. It's like the NFL, but FIFA is for soccer. They put out these really nice brochures with good form, bad form. It's a manual, so that's kind of nice. And if you're interested, if we have some soccer players or soccer parents here, I would strongly encourage you to talk to your organization about implementing this. I know I am. So what will we be doing? We'll be doing an ACL prevention clinic. Thanks, Brad, for making sure this will work out. So we'll be doing this at Cascade Mountain. One thing I want to emphasize is it is really fun hanging out with our ski buddies in the summer. My kids have had a couple parties with ski buddies, and it's just been great seeing not only the kids and my athletes, but seeing parents too. So it's really fun. So the first day will be introduction to the ACL prevention program, and then the follow-up. We'll have another follow-up in August, and that'll be to see how we're doing with the level 1, but we'll also give some more advanced movements. And for those who miss clinic 1, they can come to clinic 2 if they want to, and we can start from scratch. So, like I said, I'll be there, but the person who implements this and has a ton of passion for this is Dr. Mandy Cry. She's a physical therapist in our hospital. She does sports medicine, manual therapy. She also does strength training. So she has a lot of interest. She also does dry needling and other PT techniques that are really helpful for sports medicine. But she will be the boss running the show at these clinics. We are also depending on who's interested and what the numbers are going to be, we'll probably have one or two athletic trainers participating, providing feedback as well. Just as a heads up, Dr. Cry, so Mandy Cry is the PT, her husband is David Cry. And one thing I want to let people know is that he is a sports medicine doctor just like me, and he practices in Lodi. So if you guys have some sports medicine needs, and I know most people live in that DeForest, East Madison kind of Portage area, so just wanted to give a shout out to Dr. Cry because he has a sports medicine clinic out there. So in summary, ACL injuries occur way too often. We have a way to reduce it by 75 to 90% and 45% in alpine ski racers. Why wouldn't we do this? That's kind of the big take-home point here. So that is the end of my talk. Now we can open things up to questions and discussion if you want to. There's a few more people here. Thanks for joining me today.
We have dates set for the first or second programs.
Yes. Let me go back to my slide.
Okay.
You see that?
It's so small on my phone, I can't, no.
Sorry, man. Yeah.
Hey, Masaru, it's Mike Lick. Can you email me a copy of that presentation?
Of course. Absolutely.
Because I will take it to the girls soccer coach
Yeah.
in Reedsburg, and I will have her get a hold of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually do little field trips to schools and go to their like parent meetings and stuff like that. So, yeah. Is it Reedsburg?
Yes.
Yeah. I know the PT there. I have a go-to guy up there, Craig Johnson. So, yeah, he didn't play soccer, but yeah, we'd be happy to go up there. And we have kind of a road show here. So we'll have athletic trainers and PTs go up and teach coaches. Quite frankly, you're right. The coaches are running the show most of the time for this.
Thank you. Got it. I got them.
You got the dates there, Dave?
Yep.
Hi, Masaru. This is Reed Foster. Thanks for the great information. Incredible statistics. But is there a cost for the Cascade skiers for
No.
the clinics?
No.
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
This community service, I mean, it's just talk about trying to save healthcare costs, man. We're hoping it makes a difference. That's what matters.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Reed, your only cost for this is your wife is committing to coaching again next year.
I'll let her know. And I'll do a little bit of leg work and no coaching for me though.
That's okay.
Very good.
Yeah. Well,
Any other questions or discussions?
It's Mike again, Masaru. Are you going to have handouts for us to look at on the first clinic?
Yeah. We're hoping to put that together. Here's the thing, Mike. If you just Google FIFA 11 ACL Prevention, you can actually get the manual, and it's not that difficult in terms of the manual itself. I mean, if you want literature, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're doing this because I believe that these are best implemented by professionals. Do you know what I'm saying? Having a PT look at athletes individually. But yeah, if you're interested in kind of checking it out and looking into it, by all means, you should Google it, Google FIFA 11. But yes, we'll have our individual one too. We're kind of adapting the FIFA 11 and combining it with the exercises that are proven for ski racers. So we will have our own unique one for Cascade, and we will have pictures and descriptions, hopefully. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks again, Masaru. And just for clarification, when I said I want to give our kids an edge, it was to keep them healthy. Now, when we win, that's fun too. But but clearly safety is a big thing for us.
Yeah.
And when we can even more ammo to keep themselves healthy, that to me is worth taking the time. So
Well, I think, what's the best example that's living right now is Michaela Schifrin. So if you watch her, what's really cool about the modern day is you can watch these elite athletes do their dryland training. I don't know if you've done that for Michaela, but holy mackerel. Like, she does these ACL prevention movements to the nth level. And you can tell why she's stayed so healthy so long. Now, there's also things about her avoiding a ton of speed events, which is really smart, right? That extends her career. But man, if you watch her do her plyometric stuff and balance stuff, and then you watch some ACL prevention videos, you'll be like, oh, she's just crushing those ACL prevention movements. So yeah, extending an athlete's career is especially ski racer. I agree that is an edge over potentially other teams who aren't. And quite frankly, I hope, and someday I wish that every Wajara team does this. It just these things are preventable to some extent, these injuries. All right.
awesome.
Well, Brad, thanks for letting me do this. It's something you can tell I've been wanting to do this for a while. So I'm excited that Cascade's open to this. And I feel bad we didn't implement it earlier, but c'est la vie.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Masaru, and thanks everybody else for joining. And hopefully we'll see you. What is the Mallards game? That's the 16th.
Is it the 16th?
Yep.
You have
So
the
if you-
wrong day. Should be Wednesday.
Oh, no, the Mallards game.
Oh yeah, that's the day after, I think, isn't it?
No, because you're in July.
Oh, no. I guess we'll see all you guys at the Mallards game. That's June 16th, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
Unless you're going to Anna Glick's graduation party, then you should go.
What was that?
Mike missed the memo. I said, unless you're going to Anna's graduation party.
Yeah.
So awesome. I hope to see you guys soon.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great night.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
All right. Have a good night.